to the line. Reynolds! Reynolds!
Cody Deaver clear with 100 metres to go. Excellent runs to second. Olazun runs on, but a champion becomes a legend.
Thurston to choose from with Coot. He hits it, he's got it! He's got the field goal! He's got the premiership!
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup! Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection!
He has gone from a captain to a legend and probably rugby league immortality.
All right. G'day everyone, welcome back to the Short Ball Podcast. Today we've got a special guest with us, Craig Gower, last Penrith captain to win a premiership, New South Wales Australian representative, second most capped Penrith player ever, and the, as most people would assume, the 2003 Dally M medalist. Firstly, want to get your thoughts on the Rugby League Players Association boycott and what your thoughts on that, and if you sort of have any negative feelings around it.
Yeah, Jake, how are you, buddy? Thanks for the invitation. No, not really, mate. At the end of the day, that was my decision. At the time, Tony Butterfield came to me, and as he knew that I was around the front of leading the points tally. So, at the end of the day, I thought it was for the betterment of the players, in having a more of a voice in the game, and the end of the day, I stand by that decision. And unfortunately, sometimes for the greater good, it needs to be done. And unfortunately, I didn't receive that accolade.
Yeah, I can understand the sort of. I think I saw an article from, I think it was Freddie Fittler or maybe Ryan Girdler was one of them, saying how they wanted that to be awarded like sort of post the whole event. What were your thoughts on that, and if it got awarded to you sort of, or if it got recognised after that?
Looking back now, obviously it'd be a fantastic achievement to receive that medallion, because you look at the players that have gone before me, and even the present players now that have won that award. It's a great honour, but at the end of the day, it recognises yourself first and foremost, but for your team, because your team needs to be playing well for you to be able to play your best, and that's what happened in that 2003 season. We, as a team, we just had a phenomenal season, and that reflected my performances as well.
Yeah. Now we'll pass over to Dylan now, co-host of the podcast. Pass over to you, Dylan.
Yeah, also just going off what Jake has said, great to have you on, Craig. Dad said he was a big man crusher of yourself, so it's good to have you on. Obviously, going back a few years, you played in the Penrith district for Emu Plains and Colleton. What sort of pathways and impact did them two clubs have on your rugby league future and career?
No, I never played for Emu Plains. I just played for Colleton. I started off when I was 5 at the Colleton Colts, and just progressed through the grades, and that had a big bearing on my start to my league career, because my father used to coach me. He coached me from under 8s all the way to under 15s. It was so. He had a great understanding of my game, and he certainly shaped my career. And he was a fantastic coach. He coached up in Penrith as well, in Harry Matthews and SG Ball. Unfortunately, my dad's not with us these days, but he certainly was the number one person to get me where I was.
Yeah. Sort of jumping ahead a few years, with obviously playing it yourself in the NRL, winning premierships, who do you reckon was the best ever player you've played with, and who was the best player you've played against, like hardest than that?
I suppose the best player that I feel that I played with was Ryan Girdler. Gerds had just had a phenomenal understanding of the game, obviously where to be. He wasn't the most he wasn't the quickest centre going around, but his pace over 10 to 20 metres was all he needed, because he's just had such great vision. He knew where the ball was going when he intercepts, and he certainly knew how to put his winger away. And I think he was the sort of the first guy to sort of use that flick pass to put their winger away. He had a phenomenal knack at certainly putting Luke Rooney away in 2003. Probably the hardest player to play against was certainly Andrew Johns for myself. For myself, looking up to with Andrew, just the way he carried himself, the way he played the game. He was certainly a pioneer in certain aspects of the game itself, but he certainly was the number one player that I looked up to as a player at that particular time, and also just by the way he played the game.
Yeah, that would have been a very tough matchup, knowing you had to come up against one of the all-time greats, arguably the greatest of all time, in your own position as well. Was he sort of someone that you sort of tried to model your game around it, or did you try and go a different path and sort of stand out in your own way?
I didn't try to mould it around Joey. It was just more the fact that I just tried to play my own game, and when you can try and I was around him a fair few times in representative games and so forth, so you can see how they prepare, and it's like anything, you just try and pick and choose what you need to take away from players that you've had the experience of playing with in certain sides, and he had a phenomenal brain about how to attack and all the rest of it. So it'd be stupid not to take some of those key points from him.
Yeah. You're captain of the 2003 Premiership winning team. I just wanted to know what were you sort of saying to the boys in the lead up to the game? What was your sort of regime towards getting into that premiership, and what were you sort of saying to them at halftime, and how did you get the boys up for that game?
I didn't need to get them up. It's one of those things where I was supremely confident in our ability going into that game, and I said it today on radio that it was like an air of confidence that we were going in there to perform, and we just couldn't be beat. And that's a massive statement, really, because you're come up against the Roosters with Brad Fittler in it, and they've been a great side for a number of years. But just leading into the semi-finals, we played Brisbane at home. We were down at half time, but we had a massive breeze that we were running into. We come out and just dished them up in the second half, and then we played the Warriors, and we didn't look like getting beat. So there was sort of a great confidence going into that game, and we just loved the experience of the whole grand final week. It wasn't too much pressure for us. We were pretty relaxed, and we certainly played that way.
Yeah, no, it's just sort of something as well that you think now, as the boys are obviously going into their grand final week, you think how they're sort of, you're trying to think of how they're going to prepare and how they're going to try and get up for that game. So it's sort of interesting to hear an insight from someone who's been there, done that.
Well, I think you got to look at, they've had the experience from last year. So really that's the confidence that they've been there, but they just haven't done it yet. So I know that they, for mine, they haven't been playing as well in the back end of this year than they were last year. But, they've done it the hard way. They've had to beat Melbourne. They've done that, and they can take great confidence out of that, because probably a couple of those players hadn't been playing their best, and they certainly delivered last week, and they can take a lot of confidence out of that leading into this game.
Yeah, sort of off the back of the same question, it's a long season, rugby league, and a lot of rounds in finals, and they're probably the toughest games. But obviously the difference between a normal round game and a grand final is sometimes you get to hold the premiership trophy up, and sometimes there's another week. What was sort of the preparation with the whole week, with the build-up? We obviously now there's a lot of different toe-to-toes with the coaches and all this media stuff. What was your preparation like going into that week, and was there any difference just with a regular game?
Not particularly. You go through what you need to go through from a personal point of view, from what a team proposition as well, and then you look at the team you're playing against. You got we had grand final breakfast and so forth, but that's part of the whole experience. You got to take that in. You got to enjoy that, because you don't. I only had one opportunity at it, so you can't let your mind start to race about the game. You just got to stay in the moment, enjoy the week, and then when it comes ready to play, it's hard not to be on, because it's one of the biggest. It's your biggest game of your life.
Yeah, 100%. That obviously, Jacob, your question.
Now, this is one of the all-time famous grand final moments. You're on the field to experience it. Scotty Sattler's tackle in the 54th minute scores 6-6. What was your sort of perspective on that? What were your thoughts during that moment?
Well, I was thinking, I can't use expletives, but I was sort of swearing, because obviously Gerds tried to do a grubber, and it's hit the legs, and Bernie's picked it up, and then the only bloke I seen there was chasing with Sats, and I thought, we're in trouble here. But fortunately enough, he's made one of the best tackles in his career. Especially by the magnitude of that tackle, and I'm sure, I know that Sats is always talking about that tackle, so it's going to be one of those folklore grand finals try-saving tackles, and we'll see that for years and years to come.
Yeah, I just I wasn't around to see it or experience it, but I just hear like the perspective of people that were there to see it, and they were like, it's this winger who's quick, who should just be getting away, and you just see 13, like a forward, a 13 chasing him, and you just think, oh no, it's stuff.
Yeah.
And
but Bernie's not classified as one of those quickest wingers going around. If it was just think it was a Josh Adokar or someone like that these days, it would have left him his weight. But fortunately for us, it was it was Bernie, and Sats, he had the pace to run him down.
Yeah. Now, obviously, from that moment on, you've got the ball back. You started to sort of get back into a bit of an arm wrestle, and Clive Churchill medalist for that year was Luke Priddis. He's sort of similar coming into this. He's sort of similar to Api Koroisau coming into this week. Not maybe in the style of play. Well, I wouldn't be able to tell you that, because I probably haven't watched any of Luke Priddis play, but he, in the fact that he was your guys' only grand final experience, and Api Koroisau is Panthers' only premiership experience as well. So what sort of role do you think Api Koroisau will have in their team's success this week?
Well, it just depends on what the forwards do for him, what sort of platform that they lay. So I think it's with Api, it's picking and choosing the right times to run, and he's certainly dynamic out of dummy half, and to put him against Luke at that time in our grand final, he won us the game by taking those opportunities when he did. The one down through the middle that he put Luke Rooney away, the time he ran out of dummy half, and then I was calling the ball for a field goal, and he slid out the blind side and thrown a 20 metre cutout pass, and that's a high risk play at that time, especially in the rain and all the rest of it. But he nailed it, and that's what grand finals are about. It's about guys stepping up and nailing opportunities, and whoever gets those opportunities, they need to nail, and it's going to be the team that nails those opportunities, because they don't usually come up that often in that game.
Yeah, I just head back to your grand final as well. I know I watched the replay of it, and there was a lot of commentary surrounding you had like a shoulder and an eye injury, stuff like that. There was Ryan Girdler had to go off at about 60 minutes in. There was a lot of massive hits put on. Obviously, you had Adrian Morley for the Roosters coming out and putting shots on blokes. What was your sort of thoughts on the physicality of that grand final in particular?
It was certainly up there. I think we both teams were over 300 and something tackles, which was a high number for back then. I think it's around these days. That's the sort of average now. But Yeah, it certainly was physical. It was physical through the middle, especially when it's wet. It's going to be physical because that's where most of your play is. It's through the middle and it's just trying to grab ascendancy in field position. So it's going to be the same up there. Even though it's going to be dry, it's all about what forward pack can get over the other forward pack. And, Penrith need to do that to nullify Cody Walker and the rest of it, Damien Cook out of dummy half. So it's going to be a crucial part to both teams winning the game.
Yeah, forward pack is a massive sort of battle. Nathan Cleary obviously came under a lot of spotlight last year for his performance in the grand final, and people are sort of saying he's a choke artist in the big games, all this sort of talk around his ability to step up in the big games. What do you think he has to focus on, especially coming from a halfback's point of view? What does he sort of need to focus on coming into this game, and how does he have to sort of manage the team around?
For those people who said that, they've got no idea about anything, if that's the case. But all that Nathan needs to do is play his own game. I think he'll gain so much experience from that last grand final. They lost their way in that first 20 minutes, and I think that's what's going to hold them in good stead for Sunday's game. Is that they've been that they just need to get into the grind for the first 20, and because they lost that game within the first 20 minutes against Melbourne last year, and they know that it's crucial that they get in there and not make any errors, or try to limit those errors, and kick well and just play field position until opportunities start to open up.
Yeah, that grand final experience from last year is certainly going to help them coming into this year. Dill?
Yeah, obviously being a halfback yourself, and I'm a halfback too, I like to take on like the advice that Nathan Cleary, Adam Reynolds, all these good halfbacks that they say. If you were to give advice to the modern day players, especially a halfback, what would that advice be?
I think it's about being a good game manager, understanding when it's a good time to run the ball, kick the ball, or whatever it is. It's just understanding what plays needed at that particular time. I think with the rule changes now, it's sort of going back to when I was sort of playing in a way where you get to play off the cuff. You can and see different opportunities. And I think that's where Nathan's game is gone to the extra level, because he used to play a lot of structure when he was coming up as a kid, and never really got to play off the cuff. And I think that's a string to his bow that he's getting better and better at each year. And I think that's where young halves coming through, they should train a lot where they are seeing different opportunities and not just playing to field positions and positions on the field to try and put certain blokes through certain holes. It's about playing off maybe a quick play of the ball, or playing off an offload, or all the rest of it. He's probably doing those scenario training drills and picking up those instincts, because that's stuff that makes really creative players.
Yeah, obviously you touched on it. The rules are completely different. What are your thoughts about the speed of the game, and do you think it's getting a little bit too quick? And what are your thoughts on how your sort of time, it was completely different to this modern day game?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's getting too quick. I think it's just the fact that they've taken the wrestle out. The wrestle's not there as much, and I think that's been a blessing, because the game was getting boring. Everyone was doing the same things, and personally, I couldn't sit there and watch it. And so, I like seeing different players do different things and show their different skill sets and so forth. And I think as a viewer, and if you're going to watch it on TV or whatever, you want to see that creative stuff. You want to see the big fellas offloading through the line and all the rest of it. So I think it's been good for the game. It's like anything. Referees have got different interpretations, and that's the hardest thing that as a viewer or a supporter, you got to put up with. And that's, it's like anything. Players make mistakes, referees going to make mistakes, but it just seems like any time someone loses, it's always the referee's fault, instead of looking at who made the error, or who made the wrong decision. So
I sort of think with the new rules, people are going to, the players and the coaches and that are going to adjust to the new rules that are getting brought in. I like the way that the game is played at the moment, and the main problem that everybody has is with the blowout scores that are coming around with the quickness of the game. Do you think that as sort of the next year or maybe the year after goes about, that the bottom teams will start to sort of catch up with the speed of the game and start to adjust their systems to sort of suit that new style of play?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think it's more about how they're getting coached. It's and what sort of quality they've got there, and it just shows you when you've got the right teams performing it the right way, they can be close games. You look at the Parramatta game and Penrith game. That was an amazing game of football, and it was led by defence. And it was only because Parramatta wanted to play for each other. Guys were coming from everywhere to try and stop Penrith from scoring. And it's we hadn't seen one of those games for a while. And obviously then we had a blowout again with a bit of a blowout with Manly and South. And then you look at the Penrith game. I know Melbourne last week, they were pretty uncanny where they dropped a few balls and gave possession to Penrith. But at the end of the day, that Penrith got the job done. And it was a close game. It was exciting. It's just about it just shows you how mentally you need to have 17 players ready to play each week. And if you don't, it just shows you if you're not on, you can get dished up pretty easy, because it's hard to turn the tide after having a few penalties or a few tries against you.
Yeah, no, it's about also, as you said, it's about the sort of mindset that you come out with and making sure you're playing for each other. And that Penrith game, I thought, was a perfect example of that, where all the boys from both sides really turned up defensively, were extremely physical. And there was a lot of last second try saving tackles, and guys, the scramble defense was really impressive. Dill, you had another question you wanted to ask about, not about rugby league in particular, but about a recent All-Stars boxing lineup that had happened.
Yeah, you obviously had a boxing match. Obviously, I believe it might have been a different preparation compared to a rugby league game. What was the preparation like throughout the whole training camp, and what was the actual fight like going there and the night itself?
At the end of the day, it was just for a bit of fun, actually. And, I've never stepped in a ring, and it was just one of those things where since I've been retired, that's what you lack. You lack the adrenaline, and it was just an opportunity to have that sort of that buzz, and it certainly gave me that buzz, because it's strangest feeling walking into a ring ready for a fight. Especially if you're not a fighter like myself. So it was an amazing challenge to challenge myself to do that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was fighting a mate, a bloke I roomed with. So it was pretty weird, but I'm glad I got to experience it. I don't know if I'll jump in the ring again, but I'll tick that one off the list.
Yeah, obviously.
There you go.
Obviously, Paul Gallen, he's been probably one of the NRL's best boxers that's gone from NRL to boxing. Obviously, there's been a few rumours about him fighting Josh Aloiai, the Manly front rower. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
Well, I don't know how Josh goes, but certainly with Gal, he's a tough bastard, and I don't think anyone's going to work. The way that he works in the ring and all the rest of it, I don't think there's many blokes out there that can do that sort of stuff. But Josh Apollo gave Gal a run. That'd be interesting to see if he got back in the ring, to see how that would go. But Gal's had a lot of experience now in that ring, and he's fought some really good fighters. And so it's anyone that's keen to get in there with him, they must have some certain big couple of balls between their legs, I think.
Yeah, no, all the word about Josh Aloiai is that he knows how to throw him. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight. Haven't seen much footage of him, but...
Well, it depends if it's a street fight or what. That's what you think. It depends if you put him in a cage or something and let him go,
Just let him loose, let the boys play. Yeah. We'll wrap it up on this. We wanted to get your grand final score prediction and Clive Churchill medalist prediction.
I think it's going to be a 20 to 12 to Penrith, and I think the Isaiah Yeo for the big one, I think.
I did lie. I wasn't going to wrap it up there because I just remembered my old man had a question to ask you. Harry Grant, obviously one of the better hookers in the NRL. Most people had him as sort of the best hooker coming into this season and maybe in the top 2 now with Brandon Smith overtaking him. And this is his theory, do you think that the guys like Appy, Damien Cook, Reid Marnie, those sort of guys are better because when the sort of going gets tough, he sees Harry Grant as a run first sort of player, and he needs to probably focus more on service? Or do you think the run first mentality is a good thing for a number 9?
That's a tough question because it depends on what situation it is. When Harry Grant goes on now for Melbourne, he's coming on as a second string, and it's more about attack then. So, and you got Brandon there who's going to do the tough stuff in the middle at the beginning. But Harry Grant's shown before that he's a world-class 9, and I think Harry Grant is probably the better hooker out of a lot of those, just with the fact that, Melbourne are trying to keep Brandon Smith there and all the rest of it. But if I was coaching, I'd have Brandon at 13, but he doesn't want to play 13. So I know they're trying to massage his ego a little bit there and all the rest of it to try and keep him there. But I think Harry Grant's going to, you've seen what he did for Queensland, and I think it might have hurt his game without him playing the big minutes that he had been doing for West Tigers and Melbourne at certain times. So for me, I love Harry Grant as a player because he gives you that X factor. He gives you the option to play off the cuff because you just don't know what he's going to do because he's looking all over the field, and guys just need to react to what he's doing, and that's what I love about that. Him as a player, but also the way that the rule changes have changed. It gives those guys the option to do that.
Yeah, tied forwards to the middle. The last thing they want to see is Harry Grant coming off the bench after Brandon Smith has just ripped him apart. Well,
that's the thing. But if I'm Harry Grant, I want to be playing 80 minutes, and and Brandon's the same. So it's going to be interesting to see what Melbourne do down there to try and to appease both of them, I suppose.
Yeah. That's what I was sort of thinking coming into this season as well. I was sort of speculating that maybe Dale Finucane might play prop and you might have Brandon Smith play 13 and Harry Grant play 9. But obviously with Harry Grant's injury and Brandon Smith sort of earned his spot in the 9, probably is what has changed that to Grant 14 and Smith 9.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing that you can't predict is injuries and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden, it's hard to pull someone out when they're on a streak of 20 wins in a row. How do you drop the bloke who's kicking it all off for you? So, that's the tough decisions. But, obviously Brandon's got himself in a little bit of issues at the moment. So, I'm sure Harry Grant will be starting next season.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll wrap it on there. Thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate you coming on.
No worries, Jacob, Dylan. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. As usual, follow all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Cheers.